Regular meeting number 50 will now come to order. Please stand for the playing of the national anthem. This evening, we are grateful to have who many call the city's pastor here to pray with us. I want to welcome Bishop Clark, Bishop Timothy J. Clark of First Church to the podium. Bishop, welcome.
Thank you. Mr. President, members of council, staff, citizens of Columbus, before I pray, would you just allow me one point of
Please.
personal privilege to state what is the obvious? We are living in troubling, turbulent, trying times, and our city is not unaffected by it. I said to someone just a moment ago that amid all the tension that we feel, we should find hope in the young people who are in these chambers tonight, who gave up time on a Monday to come. That should not be lost on us, and that should not be anything but cause for us to have hope. It's in that hope that we go to prayer now. Yes, let's pray. We're grateful and we're thankful to you that in seasons of distress and grief, we've often found relief in those moments that someone called the sweet hour of prayer. We pray often, and yet there are moments when prayer becomes as essential to us as breathing. Tonight, these last 10 days represent one of those times. We stand and sit here in Columbus, but our hearts are really in that land called by so many the Holy Land. We think of our brothers and sisters, sons and daughters, mothers and fathers in Gaza and in Israel. We realize and recognize that whether you are called Jehovah or Yahweh, whether you are called Elohim, or whether you are called Allah, in so many wonderful ways, you are our Father. We realize and recognize much divides us, but we have in Abraham, all of us, a patriarch. We're reminded of that today. And so as our city grapples with issues, our council wrestles with issues, as we hear speakers tonight, would you draw us not further from each other, but closer to each other? Help us to remember that sometimes it's not so much about taking sides as making sure that we are right and doing what is right. Whether we say shalom or assalamu alaikum or simply peace, whatever we use as phraseology, let it be ours today. Let it be in Gaza and in Jerusalem, for Jew and Muslim and Arab, let there be peace. And may we, all of us, in this room and beyond, would you help us be agents of that peace, so that the words of the prophet not only ring in antiquity, but resonate in our hearts. They will beat their swords into plowshares, their spears into pruning hooks. Nation will not rise up against nation, and we will study war no more. That is our prayer. No matter what our color or our denomination or our religion or our race, today, tonight, right now, that is our prayer. In the name of Him who is our Creator and Sustainer, the one we love and seek to serve. And we all said, amen.
Thank you, Bishop. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, Favor, Remy, President Harden. Any person who takes any actions to obstruct or interfere with the conduct of tonight's meeting may be charged with disturbing a lawful meeting pursuant to Columbus City Code 2317.12. Any person who enters those areas of city council chambers reserved for city officials or invited guests may be charged with criminal trespass pursuant to Columbus City Code 2311.21.
Can I get a motion to dispense with the reading of the journal? Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, Favor, Remy, President Harden.
Are there any additions or corrections to the journal? Hearing none, the journal is approved. I'm going to go out of order this evening. Frequent attendees of this council know that I call this room, our council chambers, the people's living room, where we come together to discuss the most important topics. And usually those are local topics, local issues like parks or housing or transportation. But today, there are a lot of folks who have come to the people's living room to talk about the truly global issues going on in the Middle East right now. And while we normally allow these public comments at the end of the meeting, I'm going to move this conversation to the front of the meeting. The rules of council allow that 3 people speak to 1 topic. So we will be hearing from 3 representatives of those here tonight. I believe it is important to hear the different perspectives, but I also want to be clear that this is a public government meeting and that members of council do have an agenda to get through. And so we will have order, but we will have space as well. Now, I'm going to invite individuals who signed up to speak as a group. They put in speaker slips first and help plan today's peaceful protest. So I'm going to invite Ms. Heba and Students of Justice in Palestine, Ms. Connie and Jewish Voices for Palestine, and Yasmin and folks with the Justice, Unity, and Social Transformation to come forward and welcome to council. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Hiba from Students for Justice in Palestine at The Ohio State University, and I am speaking today in regards of the demands that we are requesting. Firstly, as a Palestinian American who resides in the city of Columbus, I am deeply disheartened by damaging sentiment and responses regarding Palestinians and their ongoing occupation and what is occurring now as a genocide from government officials here in this very state in Columbus. However, we grieve the lives of those already lost and remain committed to a future where every life is precious and all people live in freedom and safety. Palestinians have been enduring a brutal occupation by the Israeli settler colonial, and so I'm compelled to address the heart-wrenching reality that Palestinians are enduring at this very moment. It's devastating, not only to me, but to my family back in Palestine. My family members there feel a sense of helplessness as they watch the children of Gaza endure relentless bombings, unable to provide the protection and care that every child deserves. As the people of Gaza are cut off from water, food, power, medical aid, and support from the world, my family's guilt of feeling helplessness is due to the restrictive measures put in place. Now my family is living through lockdowns that restrict their movement and limit their ability to reach other cities. This cause is not only dear to us Palestinians and allies, but also to anyone who is against human rights violations and injustice. It is imperative that we continue to amplify the voices of those who are suffering and oppressed. This is a humanitarian crisis, absolutely 100%, with more than 2,750 Palestinians as of today murdered in Gaza at the hands of the Israeli government, with U.S. backing them through funding their war crimes against innocent civilians. With more than 800 children murdered in Gaza, it is clear that Israel is targeting families, women, and children. Gaza has not only been suffering for 10 days now, with over 6,000 bombs in the first 6 days, constant bombings as we speak, and illegal phosphorus bombs that are recognized as illegal and a war crime under Amnesty International. But they have been cut off from water, electricity, food, medical aid by the Israeli government, which are all basic human rights stripped from them. This is genocide in plain sight, and no one has condemned Israel's heinous ethnic cleansing against my people. All this happening while our government, the U.S. government, is giving full support to these actions. So we ask today the Columbus City Council and Mayor Ginther to issue statements of support for ending the occupation of Palestinians and the blockade on Gaza, and a call for an immediate ceasefire by Israel. Thank you.
Council President Hardin and members of City Council, my name is Connie Hammond. I am an ally member of Jewish Voice for Peace and also a member of United Methodists for Kairos Response. These organizations envision and advocate for a world where all people in Israel and Palestine can live in freedom, justice, equality, and dignity. I'm going to try to summarize my writing here, but my objection to your statement that the violence that occurred on October 7th was unprovoked ignores the fact that it was rooted in decades of oppression of the Palestinian people. The ruthless military occupation of Palestine includes violent expulsions, home demolitions, mass killings, military raids on refugee camps, and daily humiliation for Palestinians at numerous checkpoints throughout the West Bank. Palestinian children are dragged from their beds in the middle of the night by Israeli soldiers and held without charge in Israeli military prisons. Your statement ignores the fact that the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs has documented that 2003 was one of the most deadly years for Palestinians in more than a decade. At least 247 Palestinians, including 47 children, were killed by Israeli soldiers by the end of September. During the same time, Israeli settlers living illegally in the occupied West Bank launched attacks on Palestinians and Palestinian property, and over 1,000 Palestinians were forcibly displaced. It ignores the fact that Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch and other major human rights organizations have documented Israel's apartheid regime against Palestinians that is a cruel system of racist domination and a crime against humanity. It ignores the fact that the government of Israel is about to commit genocide against the people of Gaza. It ignores the fact that cutting off water, food, and fuel to 1.2 million people is a crime of collective punishment. It ignores the fact that ordering the evacuation of northern Gaza has caused a humanitarian disaster, and now Israel is bombing Gaza in the south. It ignores the fact that Amnesty has also documented that on October 13th, Israel attacked civilians fleeing the north of Gaza along a route that was designated as safe for civilians. Like all of you, I am praying for a peaceful and permanent resolution to this ongoing conflict that will bring peace, security, and the right to live with dignity for all people. However, beating the drums of war will do nothing but create more harm and sorrow for everyone in the region. There is no military solution. I ask you, may I have 15 seconds? I ask you to join with Jewish Voice for Peace members who are acting to prevent genocide in Gaza by issuing a statement that supports de-escalation. The U.S. government must immediately call for a ceasefire and cease shipments of arms to Israel to prevent further loss of life. A permanent solution can only be achieved by ending the illegal occupation of the West Bank, the seizure of Gaza, and Israeli apartheid. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on this, and I would be very happy if you would contact me if you would like any documentation or support for what I've said, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
To clarify, we have 3 more speakers. We were promised that there would be 6. This will be 5.
Okay.
All right, thank you so much. My name is Yez Nabishark. I'm a Palestinian organizer here in this city, and you know why I'm here. Do you condemn the loss of innocent life? Do you sympathize with the Palestinians in Gaza? Check yes to be marked a civilized Western person. Every time Gaza is being bombed, Americans ritualistically ask and answer these questions. Yet this framework of sympathy and condemnation does nothing to address the material conditions of Palestinians on the ground. It exists only to satiate the Western ego, to signal that we are good people and we oppose bad things. But at no point are we addressing the material conditions of apartheid And at no point do we address any questions of justice and accountability for the suffering of my people. That is why I'm here. Not to hear this council straddle some politically advantageous line with abstract condemnations of violence and empty expressions of sympathy. My people are not born to be tragedies. My people do not fight and die for your sympathy. None of us came here for your sympathy. I am here to demand that this council recognize the clear and deadly inequality between Palestinians and Israelis. To acknowledge that this inequality, which was achieved through mass murder and mass ethnic cleansing and expulsion, is the cause of violence today. And finally, to take a stand against those who maintain it, those who enforce it, and those who profit from this inequality. And that, make no mistake, is not a small group of Palestinian militants living in an open-air prison. That is the state of Israel and all its benefactors who profit from the occupation, who profit from the blockade, who profit from the death and misery and destruction. As we speak, Israel has killed thousands of innocents and is pushing 1.1 million Gazans to the southern border with Egypt. The goal of this, in case you are unaware, is to make Gaza, as you have likely seen, uninhabitable, so that hundreds of thousands of these people are unable to return home and then can be expelled into Egypt as refugees, people who are already refugees, mind you. The goal is to drastically reduce the Palestinian population. That is the goal. It is not about destroying Hamas. They would not issue an evacuation order if they were trying to destroy Hamas. This is about population control, and this is an open secret. This is a popular solution in Israel employed, and Islamophobic lies have been employed to manufacture consent for this solution. Politicians speak out for this solution. And in fact, military personnel from Israel have been on CNN saying that their war is not just with Gaza, but with the civilian, not just with Hamas, but with the civilians. Apartheid Israel is built on maintaining this system of a Jewish ethnic majority at the expense of ethnically cleansing Palestinians. That is how Israel was created, and that is how it's maintained, and that is what is happening now. I'm almost done.
Yes, me. Okay.
This is why it does nothing to merely condemn violence or express sympathy. That's for your ego. That's for your career. That's for your image. That does nothing for my people, and we don't want it. You must have the courage to condemn the inequality and stand with the Palestinian people's struggle for liberation as they face genocide from one of the most powerful armies in the world, backed by the most powerful nation in the world. And truly, I have very little expectation that any of you possess the courage to do that today. But I am speaking today so that when history is written, none of you will be able to say that you were not told.
My name is Yasmin Scali. I'm a community member and an organizer with Justice, Unity, and Social Transformation, as well as Students for Justice in Palestine. I'm here to acknowledge, as well as bring to your attention, though it is already likely in your attention, the 75-year occupation of Palestine, and more specifically, the 17-year siege trapping over 2 million people in Gaza. The UN Secretary General himself referred to this strip of land as hell on earth. Murder, rape, and incarceration of Palestinian civilians are daily occurrences. Due to the breakthrough of the fence that has kept them trapped for the past almost 2 decades in what is essentially an open-air prison, Gaza has been subject to collective punishment. They have had their access to electricity, their access to food, their access to water, and internet completely cut off. This is because the Israeli occupation believes that if Gaza is cut off from the rest of the world, they will be able to as said by their own words, flatten and bomb this land as they please, claiming it for themselves. However, we, everyone here speaking today, know that this is not true. We know that liberation is necessary, and we know that it is inevitable. Columbus is home to thousands of Palestinians and Palestinian Americans, all of whom live here as a direct result of this occupation, and all of whom are your constituents. Many of them are present here today. This behind me is the community you serve. They are not simply numbers, they are not simply statistics, they are people, and I urge you to recognize them as such. Today, I am here urging you to meet with these constituents and community leaders, and in fact, not only urge, but demand you do so, as well as listen to these people, instead of posting empty, sympathizing statements. I am demanding that you issue a statement taking a stance of support for ending this occupation and ending the blockade of Gaza.
My name is Dalal, and I'm notorious for letting somebody know that I am from Ramallah, Palestine within 5 minutes of meeting me. It takes somebody 5 minutes in a room with me to learn that my favorite thing in the world is figs, but only from the trees my dad planted in our orchard and named after me. I will never apologize for this potential annoyance as I say my name, as I say my country's name, as I add pieces of my heritage into casual conversation, not only because I am proud, but because I fear that if I'm not continuously repeating it, will allow it to disappear. I have cultivated a heart for Palestinian literature, which makes me a strong believer in rhetoric, and an even stronger believer in unapologetic rhetoric and a liberation movement. However, not even a heart sold by the best of poets can look past the fact that Palestine is disappearing right before our eyes. And it isn't for the lack of us saying and screaming her name, it is for the lack of people in positions of authority, people in positions of power, people whose primary responsibility is to the people of their community to do anything of value. Almost 3,000 people in Gaza have been killed in the last week by the settler forces of Israel. Israel is systematically cleansing the world of Palestinians, and as we scream for Palestine to stop her from sinking into the oblivion we call history, you, ladies and gentlemen, look past and ignore our cries, the cries of hungry children in Gaza whose food, water, and electricity supply has been cut off by the fascist system that is the IOF. We come here today to plead, to all but beg for this council to condemn Israeli forces and to stand against in a public declaration of the genocide that is currently happening in Gaza. Israel has dropped 1/4 of an atomic bomb on Gaza in the last week, a region no bigger than 25 miles. Since when is it controversial? Since when does it need to be implored? Since when is it a debate that genocide is wrong and condemnable? We have been living in a dystopia for the last week as media outlets, as TV personalities, as this council themselves have spread misinformation on social media that has formed an aura of hate and increased Islamophobic tensions in this community. The irony that we are the post-9/11 generation and have grown up facing repercussions of an event that we weren't even born to see, to now facing our own, is deafening, but that's not even the most ironic part. The most ironic part is that what's going through some of your minds right now is that the people of Gaza have somehow brought this violence upon themselves. But I ask you, since when is resilience against an almost century-long siege of violence, terrorism, but you can somehow reconcile the death of 1,000 Palestinian children in the last week alone that you refuse to acknowledge? I come here today to tell you my name is Dalal, and I am from Ramallah, Palestine. I used to stay in the snow of my grandparents' garden with the stolen pomegranate in the winter, but at the way this is going, the only snow that will be stained is with the blood of the children of Gaza. I beg you, as a member of this community, as a member who condemns genocide and ethnic cleansing, I beg you to be on the right side of history and release and condemn Israeli actions in a public declaration. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming and sharing. Thank you. like I said before, this is the people's living room. This is where we come to join together as one Columbus. Not to always find agreement, and we won't, but to come together and to be seen. Typically, we are talking, like I said, about local issues, not about issues that are national. But, you know, and what national government leaders do is conduct foreign policy. They make decisions about war and peace. At a local level, we can't directly impact those things, but what we can do at a local level uniquely, I believe, is ensure that we continue to see the humanity of each other. And we can reject the impulse for anger, for misinformation, for dehumanization that seems to come so easily in tense moments like these. I read today about a man arrested in Bexley for terrorizing his Jewish neighbors, called pigs. I also read today and saw of the heinous attack of a 6-year-old boy in Chicago, killed because he was Palestinian. We are failing to see each other as humans. I have a 2-year-old son, and it breaks my heart to see that babies are dying in this conflict. A week ago, those babies were Israeli. Now we find ourselves on the eve of war, and Palestinian babies are suffering.
They were always Palestinian.
Right now, everybody is hurting. Everyone is hurting.
No.
Everyone is hurting.
No.
Everyone is scared.
No. Everyone is not hurting.
Despite the trauma, I still pray for peace. But in the absence of peace, we must strive, at least here in Columbus, to see one another, to empathize with one another.
Empathize with us.
There are nearly 1 million people in Columbus. We are a diverse community, and while folks in different corners have different concerns, what I hear from everyone right now is fear. Last weekend, I put out a statement about the fear I was hearing from our local Jewish community, and that is real. Before this meeting, I met with some brave young people who shared their fear too, and those fears are real. In Columbus, we can't control everything, but we can control how we see one another, how we look out for one another, how we see the humanity in one another. There is nothing that we can say tonight in this chamber that will make everything right. There is nothing that we can do that will end all of this conflict, but what we can do is see one another. I don't have the solutions tonight. 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 But we will be here. Thank you.
If you don't have the answer, you shouldn't have spoken about it.
We have to, thank you. Thank you. We have to progress with council's meeting tonight. We gave space, and we will continue to give space.
We didn't come for space.
Know that while you continue
We didn't come for sympathy.
You're not listening.
We didn't come for this empty rhetoric that does nothing but satiate your own egos and your own careers.
You
That
stood
does
with
nothing
them.
for our kids.
Why
That
does
nothing
city
for our
council get
people.
paid trips to Israel?
Exactly. Why did you
Israel.
We will need to, we will, if we can,
something? Have nothing.
if we cannot move on with the meeting, we will have to recess. But we have city business.
You can't run from the people.
With that, are there, we'll go around the dais. And if we can go around the dais, we'll progress with the meeting. Councilmember Bankston.
This weighs heavy on my heart, and let me be clear, and I think it's clear that there's nothing that I will be able to say, I think, nor will this council be able to say that will meet this moment. Nor is there anything that we can do from a resolution or public statement standpoint that will necessarily change.
If we cannot progress with the meeting, we're going to have to take a recess.
But what I will say is, what I,
You don't know what to do? We're here telling you right now.
well, I think that's what I'm trying to get to. I think that's what I'm trying to get to.
How many Palestinians have to die?
Okay.
How many would be enough?
Since we can't, we have to have order and get on with the meeting. Is there a motion to recess? Is there a second? Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
We stand in recess. Number 50. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, Favor, Remy, President Harden.
Meeting is reconvened. We are going to have two additional speakers on a topic that, again, is really important to Columbus to have. And we can have those two speakers to come forward, please. Could you just state your name and welcome?
Absolutely. My name is Mazen Rasool. I'm a local attorney. I had a previous speech written, to be honest, but I think given the circumstances, I'm not sure how well I could really address this council and speak to what all of these people here want to tell you. I stood before you a few months ago in April, if you remember me, and thanked you back then for issuing a proclamation for Arab American Heritage Month. I asked you back then to listen to us, to recognize us, to recognize our existence, not just in time of celebration and when it's an easy thing to say. I asked you in my speech back then to recognize us and to listen to us and remember that we are your constituents and that we are here in difficult times like what it is today. I pled for you to listen to us even when the conversation is difficult or uncomfortable one. Today, we are witnessing a genocide happen in Gaza. We are witnessing it on live TV. Today, we are witnessing families, entire families of 30, 40 members, 50 members being completely wiped off in Gaza. Today, our community here and abroad are suffering from hate, bigotry, and systematic dehumanization of people. Just a few hours ago, a boy was murdered in Chicago. He was stabbed in Chicago. A few days ago on High Street, when we were rallying for people to hear us, just to hear us, a man drove by and tried to drive over one of our protesters in Columbus. The only reason why these things are happening is because of all the misinformation and all of the anti-Palestinian speeches and statements that we're seeing by you, by city council members, by the state, by the legislators, by the government, by the media. The dehumanization of the Palestinian people is something that, unfortunately, we've been seeing for 75 years. We got used to it for a period of time, but at this point, we're not going to let it pass. We're not going to accept it. Have you wondered what will be your position if you lived during the time of slavery? What will be your stance if you were alive during the civil rights movement? What will be your stance if you were alive during the Holocaust? If you were sitting in these seats while these things were happening around the world? What would have been your statement if you were sitting in this seat during apartheid in South Africa? Well, in my opinion, respectfully, based on what I've apartheid South Africa, until the end, you will be in the same position. You're not correcting the wrong history. You're not correcting our wrong stances in the history, in the entire history of this country. The Palestinian situation is not complicated, and I beg you for just a few more seconds.
Sure.
It's not too complicated. It's a situation of, it's occupation, it's apartheid, it's ethnic cleansing. It's a situation of refugees who've been living in refugee camps for 75 years with no one even listening to them or caring about them. This cycle of violence that everyone is talking about today did not start 8 or 10 days ago. This started 75 years ago. 75 years of no one listening to these people, no one caring of their future. We were talking about 3 and 4 generations of Palestinians living in refugee camps in Gaza, in the West Bank, in Lebanon, in Syria. They're refugees for 75 years, and no one even thought of finding a solution for them. No one ever thought of giving them justice, of sending them home. The occupied people refuse to stay silent. We refuse to continue on allowing this to happen. The occupied people have a right to resist. In every law, in every religion, in every norm, in every common sense, an occupier does not have a right to self-defense. An occupier, an aggressor, does not have a right to defend himself. The occupied people, the victims, are the ones who hold the right to self-defense, and no matter what means they use, no matter if you agree or don't agree with the means of self-defense, they are under occupation, they are the victims, they have a right to defend themselves. Today we are witnessing this genocide, and we hope that the city council members take the right side in history, take the right side and stand with those who are being ethnically cleansed. My last remark is this. A few days ago, the Israeli Minister of Defense said, these Palestinians are living animals. We are going to destroy Gaza. While our Secretary of State was standing next to him, was listening to these words, and they still are going and supporting these crimes. President Biden will be there in a few days to support these crimes. This genocide is on the hands of the American people, of the Democratic Party, of President Biden. It's all on their hands, and on their watch, and on our money. Thank you.
How does one summarize ethnic cleansing and tell people how to care in 3 minutes? I don't know, but here we go. I would say thank you for allowing us to speak today, but you welcomed us into our living room, felt uncomfortable with the truths being spoken, then attempted to kick us out of said living room. As people who are public servants, I am gravely disappointed. I digress, though. The truth matters. Facts matter. Words matter, rhetoric matters, and the full and accurate picture matters. And in this case, the truth is ugly and uncomfortable, so get ready. Conflict, war, terrorists, these are all words I'm going to actively not use today, as that is not the truth. So what is the truth here? I'm going to tell you. Palestinians have been living under a brutal and inhumane and an illegal occupation under the apartheid state of Israel for multiple generations. My name is Shahid al-Asadi. My Jiddo Ahmed, my grandpa Ahmed, is part of the 1948 Nakba from Safad, Palestine. They face a government who seeks to ethnically cleanse the Palestinians. Without resistance, the end game for our people is, quite frankly, extinction. Their resistance is utterly the tragic human response to living in the world's largest open-air prison, which is a nice term, by the way. It is the tragic human response to living under crippling oppression, and it is the tragic human response to being treated like less than lab rats. So we, me, everyone behind me will continue to use our voices. We're going to use our voices until we are blue in the face, until we are hoarse. Because as long as our Palestinians continue to be murdered, raped, pillaged, seized, colonized, starved, and muzzled above all else, we will continue to use our voices on their behalf as that is one of their few defenses against Israel. I have a couple ending messages and a couple of requests/questions. My message to Israel is we know what you are about. Maybe not this country, but the international community knows what you are about. And to the US government, we know you know this ugly truth. And my message to you, as a Palestinian American born and raised, is that we will never stop holding you accountable. Like seeds, we will grow, and we will never abandon Palestine. We will never forget. I have 3 questions that need answered. Will you say these words? Stop the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. Second question. Some of you, if not all of you, went on an expense-paid trip to Israel. If this issue is not for you, as Mr. Hardin stated earlier, then why did you go there? And why did you release a statement within mere hours? What was your process then? Was there a process? Last question, and specifically to you, Shannon, why do you have a political consultant, Joe Ratoff, that asked to finish off Palestinians? Thank you.
Well, I said that we would respond. I appreciate, again, having the ability to hear from those two speakers. We have to get this meeting back together, moving forward. But what I will say to just those remarks is that babies dying anywhere at the hands of anybody is wrong. It's wrong. And Palestinians dying at the hands of anybody is wrong. I can say that. You talked about you talked about
Hey, everyone, I just want to be clear. We had a conversation. Let the council president speak.
Yeah.
Okay? I understand. Let him get through it. Let him get through it.
No, I mean, again, there's not going to be anything that I can say that will make everybody feel better. But I want you to know that, like, this is us hearing it. This is us having space in this room. My concern is about the safety and to make sure that there is not Islamophobia in our community. That is what we are here, and that is what this council is about. That is what we believe. For someone on our team on the outside of our team, outside of the city, to say some thing that we disagree with, I own that, and it's unacceptable. It is unacceptable, and we will handle that. We will take care. We will handle that. We will have those conversations. But I can't make those. I can't do that tonight. But I said that we would allow more space to hear from folks, to make sure that this continues, these conversations continue, but we do have to get back to council. And so I know that would not be sufficient. Those statements will not be sufficient. But I've heard you. I see you. I see you. Okay. Any council members would like to say anything? Okay.
To their responses, so let them respond.
Okay.
Ooh, this is loud. I'm so sorry. So just the same way that I think that you're impassioned, we might be impassioned. I know that one of our speakers said before, I consider myself an empath, though. So you can not believe that, you can believe that, that's up to you. But I am the daughter of political refugees. My parents are from Cuba, and I was sharing this story earlier, that when there was political unrest in Cuba, I stood at the State House waving the Cuban flag about the same thing that was happening in Cuba, where we have water shut off. There is a U.S. embargo to Cuba and has been for more than 60 years. I still have family in Cuba, so the things that are facing them directly impact us. And I say that not to compare anything, but to say that when we think about empathy, do I have empathy? Absolutely. And when I stood at the State House, there was not one political representative that issued any statement about what was happening in Cuba for the past 60-some years. And I'm not saying that to then say, well, this happened or that happened. I'm, again, saying for empathy and understanding as we're having these conversations. I said this to a gentleman as we were talking. I do not believe that the greater population, just like many today, there are all kinds of conflicts around the world of countries that people will never know the name, people will never know the people. That is happening. And I say that because I do believe that people look on TikTok. I believe that people look in different places and they take their information, and it's like bite size and spoonfuls. I understand that what you're asking for today is leaders, as leaders who have a platform to take a stand. And I think that one of the things that I would love to do is I would love to have a dialogue, and it's really hard in this setting. And if you're upset with me because you're asking for a dialogue, you asked us if we would listen. I'm saying I want to listen. I'm saying that I want to learn. And you can shake your head if you want to, but what I didn't go anywhere. I'm not running away. I'm looking at you in the eye and I'm saying that I want to have a conversation. And if you're telling me no, I'm saying that I understand your plight. I'm saying that I understand and I want to have a conversation about how we can work together, how we can move together. And if you're telling me no, just know that I'm going on record and saying that I want that opportunity. And it's hard in this setting because every time I say something, if you shake your head and you tell me you don't believe me, then that makes it really hard for me then to come to a place where I can understand and comes. Oh, no. Because not once when you were talking, not once when you were talking, did I interrupt. Not once when you were talking, did I not listen. So that you can answer in the rebuttal. You can answer in the rebuttal because I'm trying to have the conversation now, and I'm trying to say, and I've reached out to multiple people who were out here to say I would love to sit down and have a conversation.
All right, thank you, Councilmember. Any other council members like to respond before we have a rebuttal? Councilmember Bankstrom.
So I just want to say to the audience that I understand that this is okay. All right, thank you for being here and being heard.
Any other council members like to speak before? Councilmember Favor.
First, in the strongest of terms, I condemn the social media post that has been circulating. That individual does not speak for me, nor reflect my position on this matter. I condemn any behavior that can be attributed to Islamophobia or behavior that is anti-Semitic. As an African-American woman, I am no stranger to oppression. There is never a day that goes by where I do not have to grapple with this country's original sin and the fact that close to millions of people were killed, trafficked, and enslaved in this country. And so when I say, and my colleagues say that we see you, I see you, we see you. I will stand firm in my support for my Palestinian sisters and brothers. And I'm going to stand firm for my support for my Israeli brothers and sisters as well. Unapologetically. My heart grieves for the innocent lives that have been lost in Gaza and in Israel. I am deeply troubled by this escalating humanitarian crisis. Thousands of Israelis and Palestinian citizens have been killed, and scores more have been injured. No child should go to sleep at night and wonder whether they will still have a home, let alone a family. The images and the accounts from the region are horrific. And as human beings, we cannot look away. And so I will continue to pray for an immediate ceasefire. And I will also pray for justice, without which peace will always be elusive.
With that, would we like to have a rebuttal?
Hello, everybody. I'm not sure. Can you hear me?
There we go.
There we go. So I took some notes. I want to be fair about what was said, and I want to be fair about what wasn't said. You know me. I sit on councils in this community. I organize in this community. I was born and raised in Columbus, Ohio. This is my community. So when there are certain statements made and certain statements that refuse to be made, I hear both loud and clear. I hear both loud and clear. I am asking you, as a member of your community, to be precise with your language. Palestinians do not die. They were killed. That distinction is important. It is important to know the difference between an active and a passive voice when speaking about the members of your community, because that's who they are. The second thing is that it is clear to everyone in this room that the Israeli occupation is the root cause of the problem. Please, when you are honest about our pain, that's where you need to point your fingers. It is not just about death. It is about the root cause of the problem. That is the source of the pain. I really do appreciate being listened to. And I know that this probably wasn't what you were expecting today. But the people in this room don't need to be listened to anymore. They don't need to educate anymore. We've been educating people on this our entire lives. I am proud to be part of a community that city council is representative of its constituents. But in order to be truly representative, you need to be representative of us too. You need to be representative of us too. So look around. I'm not interested in Oppression Olympics. Respectfully, I'm not interested in that. Look around. Palestine is the litmus test. Palestine is the deciding factor about whether or not you can call out oppression, even when it's scary. Palestine is the litmus test. It always has been the litmus test. And secondly, all due respect, Councilwoman, all due respect. People don't look to TikTok to learn. They look to their leadership. And I'm a leader in this community. And I know that the statements I make have impacts on the government monies that go to the organizations that I sit on, and I'm making these statements anyway. So that's what leadership is. That's what leadership looks like. And I need you to understand, Shayla Favor, that we hear your condemnation. And I appreciate your condemnation. And I'm hopeful that due to the fact of your condemnation, because a lot of people in this room have asked very specifically to sit down and have meetings. And they want to have those meetings, and they want to know how they can facilitate having those meetings. So those meetings need to be had. The conversations need to be open. It cannot just be dialogue. I have been organizing in this community for as long as I can remember. Dialogue is just a fancy way of saying there are two sides to every story. And there is nothing more unequivocally wrong than Israeli genocide. Israeli occupation and Israeli genocide. I know you all. I know you support the initiatives of this community. I know that when it has come time to speak out against oppression, that you have done so. And I'm asking you to be courageous, and I'm asking you to be brave, because it is not going to be kindly in the course of history if the only people who are standing out against oppression were born in 2001. That can't be the case. I have been threatened in the past 8 days due to my Palestinian identity. I have been threatened for the fact that I wear hijab. I have been in these streets, in this place, in my home, where my city council is supposed to speak for me, where I used to sit on the mayor's commission. I sat on the mayor's commission in 2000 when I have been part of local politics and organizing for as long as I can remember. And it is shameful. It is shameful when these statements are made without consideration of the people who do vote for you, the people who want to see this space remain diverse, the people who want to see Columbus remain a city that we can be proud to call home. But unless you point to the root cause of our pain, which is the Israeli occupation of Palestine, that is the root cause of our pain. And I guarantee you, we're young, we're loud, we're energized. It's not going away. It's not going away. Israel has been allowed to exist, and it's a finite amount of time. Nothing about this conflict is forever. And we know that because Palestinians are never going to cease to exist. And so long as there is one Palestinian, there's going to be one voice in your face. So I appreciate you restructuring your meeting. I appreciate you taking the time to listen. But I hope that you understand that it is not enough to dialogue, to have a conversation. That's places to start. But you need to be unequivocal about what you're asking for. Because if you're not unequivocal, you're telling everybody who looks like me, who believes like me, who comes from a country like me, that we're not who you represent. Thank you.
I'd like to recess once again. There were some things that were asked about a meeting. I think that is appropriate next step to get that set, but I'd like to reconvene so that our recess so that we can get that meeting scheduled and allow for the staff to come back in so we can reconvene meeting. Thank you. Is there a motion to recess? Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, Favor, Remy, President Harden.
Recess. will now come to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Can I get a motion to dispense with the journal? Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Are there any additions to the? One second. Okay, no, you're good. Here, no corrections or additions to the journal. The journal is approved. We'll now go to the zoning committee. Councilmember Dorans chairs that committee. All members serve on it. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Harden. Before we begin tonight's zoning agenda, allow me to briefly explain our current rules pertaining to speaking before council on rezonings and variances. We will only hear a staff presentation of ordinances that have a disapproval from recommending body, or if you have a public speaker signed up to speak against an ordinance. Tonight, we did not receive any public speaker slips in the zoning committee. I'm happy to report that both ordinances have approvals from recommending bodies. All speakers on council variances, including city staff, area commissioners, applicants, and members of the public, will be sworn in before they give testimony. Representatives of an area commission applicants are always able to speak on an ordinance and do not need to fill out a speaker slip. On the advice of the city attorney's office, I will now swear in city staff. Please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth and nothing but the truth, that as you shall answer under pains or penalty of perjury? If so, please say I do. I do. Thank you. Please let the record reflect that Joseph Rose from the Department of Building and Zoning Services has been sworn in. First, we have ordinance 2697-2023 to grant a variance provisions of section 3332.38H private garages, 3332.25 maximum side yard required, 3332.26C minimum side yard permitted, and 3332.38G private garage at the Columbus City Coast of the property located at 703 South 5th Street to permit a habitable space above a detached garage with reduced development standards in the R2F residential district. The applicant is Julia Bullock of Julia Bullock Architects, which requests a council variance to permit a habitable space above a newly constructed detached garage. A council variance is necessary because the zoning code only permits habitable space above a garage when connected directly to a habitable space in a dwelling. Staff supports the proposed variance as the request is consistent with similar proposals that have been approved in the area. Staff also notes the final design is subject to a certificate of appropriateness by the German Village Commission. The applicant is Julia Bullock Architects. They have approval from city departments, German Village Commission, and the Board of Commission Appeals. If there are no other questions, I first move to accept the entire staff report into evidence as an exhibit.
Please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Yep.
Accepted.
Accepted.
Thank you. I next move to adopt the findings of staff as the findings of council.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Adopted.
And finally, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinance 2732-2023 to grant a variance provisions of section 3332.035 R3 residential district of the Columbus City Coast, with property located at 3894 North High Street, to allow a 3-unit dwelling in the R3 residential district. The applicant is Evan Montgomery, who requests a council variance to permit a conversion of an existing building into a 3-unit dwelling, which is consistent with the housing patterns and densities of the surrounding neighborhood. The request has approvals from city departments and the Clintonville Area Commission. Do my colleagues have questions or comments? Seeing none, I first move to accept the entire staff report into evidence as an exhibit.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Accepted.
Thank you. I next move to adopt the findings of staff as the findings of council.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Adopted.
And finally, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you, Council President. That's all we have in tonight's zoning agenda.
Thank you, Chair Dorans. Seeing no further business coming before the zoning committee, is there a motion to adjourn? Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Meeting is adjourned. We will reconvene regular meeting in 5 minutes, or when the directors get back. reconvene meeting number 50. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Meeting is reconvened. This week's communications received by the clerk's office are listed on the agenda and will be published in the city bulletin. Are there any other communications to be read into the record?
Not at this time.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We'll go around the dais for any announcements or resolutions, starting with Councilmember Bangston.
Thank you, Council President Harden. I just want to make sure that I lifted this up, that it's in the record. Earlier this evening, we recognized two amazing women that were instrumental in our blood drives during the month of September. So I just wanted to put into the record to give a special thank you to Tina DeFluter, who's with the City of Columbus in our HR department, as well as Norma Wasserstrom at the Red Cross. And again, thank everyone who donated blood during the month of September. And always as a reminder, you can continue to give blood at the Red Cross or Adversity Blood Centers because it is desperately needed here in our country, in our city, as well as around the world. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Barosa de Padilla.
Thank you, Council President. I have one announcement, one resolution. So, and another quick thank you. We ended Latino Heritage Month this past Friday. We ended it with a art show and in conjunction with Goodland. And it was, we had several food trucks and several artists and performing artists. I want to thank everyone who came out. I want to, again, at another time, we'll have them come in, acknowledge the Latino Heritage Month Committee for all of their work in helping to elevate the Latino community in Columbus. I also have a reminder that 614 beautiful applications are due this Friday, October 20th at 5 p.m. So up on the screens, and for folks who might still be watching, these are some of the examples of, the projects went up, sorry, my mint went down the wrong way. Some of the projects that have come out of the first round of 614 Beautiful. 614 Beautiful is an opportunity for community members to actually apply for funds up to $15,000. It was $10,000 in the first go round, but $15,000 for anything like murals, pocket parks, placemaking, community gardens, etc. This is an opportunity for neighborhoods to create beautiful spaces and for them to create learning spaces in their community. So I hope that folks will apply. Again, it's $15,000 and the information is on the 614beautiful.org website. You can also see some of the other proposals from the last go around. Secondly, I would like to introduce Resolution 0199X-2023 to honor and celebrate October 27th, 2023 as the 5th anniversary of the National Veterans Memorial and Museum. I think most folks know that I chair the Veteran, Senior, and Disability Affairs. The Veterans Museum was really started to tell the story of folks who have been part of the military and their families. It's a beautiful space. It went from being the Franklin County Veterans Memorial to a National Veterans Memorial. There's 60,000 veterans that live here in Columbus, or in the Columbus region. There's a higher concentration of veterans that live in the Midwest, which is why the National Veterans Memorial was established here. And it is a national museum to celebrate veterans. So they've done a ton of work to support folks and their families coming out of military service. And so the 18th of this month, they will be celebrating their 5th anniversary. And so we'll have them come out to council at another time so that we can recognize them. But I did want to present the resolution to them, which is Resolution 0199X-2023. And with that, I ask for adoption.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Adopted.
Thank you, and that's all for me this evening.
Thank you, Councilmember Barosa de Padilla. Councilmember Brown.
Nothing this evening, sir.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Dorans. Councilmember Favor. Councilmember Remy.
Thank you, Council President Harden. I have one item this evening, Resolution 200X-2023, to recognize and designate. I just did the same thing she did.
Same minute.
To recognize and designate October 2023 as Crime Prevention Month in the city of Columbus, Ohio. As safety chair for Columbus City Council, my number one focus is on public safety and how we can bring community members, faith leaders, nonprofit organizations, parents, grandparents, and our youth together. This type of intentional focus and partnership with the community will help our goals of crime and violence reduction in Columbus. One of my initiatives coming up is the Black Watch Assistance Grant to help establish or grow Black Watch groups in the city. I've been working with Chief Bryant and CLOs on development of this program, and we'll be introducing legislation to fund the program and releasing the application details. I believe this program will help reduce and prevent crime by giving neighborhood leaders the tools to do so. Another initiative led by Councilmember Mitch Brown and myself is the Love Our Children, Lock Your Guns initiative to hand out thousands of free gun locks available at any fire station here in the city of Columbus. As we partner to fund this initiative and spread the word that you can't take a bullet back, but you can prevent a bullet accidentally harming others with gun locks. So I believe this initiative has already prevented deaths, but certainly will continue to help save lives in our city. But to talk a little bit more about Crime Prevention Month, I'm going to turn it over to Director Pashadi. Director.
Council President Harden, Safety Chair Remy, City Council members, thank you so much for this resolution recognizing and designating October as Crime Prevention Month in Columbus. Active and successful crime prevention programs not only reduce crime and save lives, but they also reduce workload for patrol officers and detectives and provide opportunities for positive interactions with the public. An overwhelming majority of the 2023 homicides in Columbus were committed with firearms, and felonious assaults are also up with 870 as of August 1st in 2023 compared to 796 in 2022. What we know is that crime prevention programs demonstrate strong partnerships and show communities that police executives and leaders are in touch with the needs of the community. To that end, the City of Columbus is committed to continuing to work with the community to improve safety through gun buyback events, distribution of gun locks, and focusing this month on crime prevention. Thank you again for this resolution.
Thank you very much, Director. Do any of my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for adoption.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, Favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you, Council President. That's all I have this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a couple quick announcements. I'd like to give a reminder that we have a public hearing tomorrow, Tuesday, October 17 at 5 p.m. For discussion over the 2024 U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development grant funding. Myself and Councilmember Bangston will go over the city's annual action plan, which is the plan provided to the federal government that details how the city plans to allocate those dollars. We're looking forward to sharing updates on some of our programs and providing members of the public with information regarding the city's process for soliciting potential projects, selecting grant recipients, and the outcome of the most recent cycle of funding. And just one last reminder, and a reminder that there is no council meeting on October 23rd. Okay, that's it. Are there any questions? Are there any requests by members of council for the removal of an ordinance or resolution from the consent portion of the agenda? Hearing none, may we now have a motion to waive the reading of titles of third-day legislation? Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, Favor, Remy, President Harden.
Thank you. Will the clerk now read into the record the ordinance numbers of 30-day legislation on tonight's agenda?
Economic Development Committee, Ordinance 2775-2023. Public Service and Transportation Committee, Ordinance 2748, 2761, 2786, 2787, 2791, 2792-2023. Recreation and Parks Committee, Ordinances 2465, 2466, 2467, 2560, 2563, 2564, 2777-2023. Public Utilities Committee, Ordinances 2606, 2714, 2767-2023. Housing Committee, Ordinances 2539, 2542, 2790-2023. Health and Human Services Committee, Ordinances 2511, 2782-2023. Finance Committee, Resolution 196X-2023, and Ordinance 2817-2023.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Do we have any speakers on the first reading? Okay, the following ordinance appear on our agenda as consent actions. Will the clerk now read those into the record?
Economic Development Committee, Resolution 188X-2023, Ordinance 2795-2023. Small and Minority Business Committee, Ordinance 2827-2023, Public Service and Transportation Committee. Ordinances 2601, 2780-2023, Recreation and Parks Committee. Ordinances 2469, 2562, 2566-2023, Public Utilities Committee Resolution 189X-2023, Ordinances 2666, 2734, 2750-2023, Housing Committee Ordinances 2812 and 2814-2023, Criminal Justice and Judiciary Committee Ordinance 2725 and 2727-2023, Health and Human Services Committee Ordinances 2441, 2632, 2651, 2676, 2708, 2713-2023, Administration Committee Ordinance 2730-2023, Finance Committee Ordinances 2493, 2657, 2671, 2682-2023.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Are there speakers on the consent portion of the agenda? Okay. No speakers on the consent agenda. Are there any questions or comments on the consent portion of the agenda? Hearing none, may I have a motion for approval of these items designated as consent? Is there a second? Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember
Someone else has to second.
We need another second, please. There we go.
Mr. Bankston.
Yes, with the
Ms.
exception.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, with the
Sorry.
exception of ordinance 2651-2023, from which I'm abstaining.
Ms. Barosa de Padilla.
Yes.
Mr. Brown. Yes. Mr. Dorans.
Yes.
Ms. Favor.
Yes, with the abstention of 2651-2023, from which I'm abstaining.
Mr. Remy.
Yes.
President Harden.
Yes, consent portion of the agenda is passed with the noted exceptions. We will now proceed with the reading of, second reading of 30-day postponed emergency legislation. The first committee to come before council is the Small Minority Business Committee, chaired by Councilmember Bankston. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President. We have one piece of legislation tonight in the Small Minority Business Committee, Ordinance 2661-2023, to amend the 2023 capital improvement budget, to authorize the city auditor to transfer funds within the taxable bond fund, to authorize the director of the Department of Development to enter into a capital contribution agreement with Columbus Downtown Development Corporation in an amount up to $550,000 for the property renovation portion of the downtown ground floor growth initiative, to authorize the advance of funds to CDDC per the agreement schedule, to authorize the expenditure of up to $500,000 from the taxable bond fund, to authorize the appropriation of and expenditure of up to $50,000 from the general fund job growth subfund. This ordinance is another step towards the launch of an initiative that my office is spearheading, the Ground Floor Growth Initiative, formerly referred to as the Downtown Commercial Marketplace Program, that my office unveiled at the top of the year. As a refresher, this program aims to bring the vibrancy of this city's small minority business offerings into the heart of our downtown and the heart of our city by providing small minority businesses access to 10 first-floor retail spaces with wraparound supports. One of the supports involves a master leasing program operated by a third party with a guaranteed rent obligation to increase the sustainability of the small businesses and allow commercial real estate owners to lease retail space to emerging small businesses with confidence that rent will be paid. The Columbus Downtown Development Corporation has partnered with us to run this part of the program, and this ordinance officially establishes that relationship. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage at this time. Well, I'm sorry. I move to amend this ordinance as submitted to the clerk.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, Favor, Remy, President Harden.
Amended.
And now I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, Favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you, Council President. That's all I have in my committee this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Congratulations on that piece of legislation. I know you worked a long time on that. Good job.
Thank you.
The committee coming before council is the Public Service and Transportation Committee chaired by Councilmember Rosa de Padilla. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President. I have two items in Public Service and Transportation this evening. Ordinance 2623, 2023, to authorize the city attorney to file complaints in order to immediately appropriate and accept the remaining fee, simple and lesser real estate necessary to timely complete the Sinclair Road Sidewalks project, to authorize an expenditure of $3,365. The city's acquisition of the real estate will help make, improve, or repair certain portions of the public right-of-way in the vicinity of Sinclair Road between Morse and Lincoln Avenue, which will be open to the public without charge. The Sinclair Road Sidewalks project consists of installing new sidewalks along both sides of Sinclair Road from Morse Road to Stripple Avenue. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. The next ordinance, 2872, 2023, to authorize the Director of the Department of Public Service to enter into a grant agreement with Smart Columbus LLC in the amount up to $250,000 for the resident e-bike subsidy program to continue the creation of multimodal transportation option for residents that reduces the carbon footprint in Columbus and supports our goal of carbon neutrality by 2050. I would also say, in addition to ensuring that more of our residents can make cycling a reality, because e-bikes are just easier to move, and to authorize the appropriation expenditure in the Neighborhood Initiative Subfund and to declare an emergency. So in July of this year, Council President and I launched the Resident E-Bike Subsidy Program and provided vouchers to residents who are interested in purchasing an e-bike. Residents applied for the program and were able to redeem a point-of-sale discount on the purchase of an e-bike at a local bike shop here in Columbus. This program had over 1,300 applicants within 24 hours. However, we were only able to discount 200 of those, or able to award 200 discounts to residents. So because of the overwhelming interest, we're going to provide additional funds to Smart Columbus to award another 200 discounts from the same previous applicant pool. So if you were part of that 1,300, then hopefully you might be part of the next 200 discounts that we give out in this next pool. Council President, is there anything you would like to add?
Not at this time, but we're just really excited. I hope folks, this was all about providing more access and more opportunities for folks to use our streets, to be engaged, and to see that kind of turn out. We were really excited that we're able to open it back up and make sure that more people are able to move around through this program. So thank you for your leadership.
And thank you for yours. And I'm very excited about what the next generation will bring, because we've also talked about providing additional modes of cycling to folks as well. We gave out one tricycle in this go round. So this is not just, again, about the environment, but also about making cycling more attainable for folks, no matter what your abilities, age, et cetera. So do my colleagues have any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you, Council President. That's all for me and my committees this evening.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next committee coming before council is the Education Committee chaired by Councilmember Brown. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President. Tonight I have the Order 2002-2023 to authorize the Director, Executive Director of the Mayor's Office of Education to modify a grant agreement with the Workforce Development Board of Central Ohio to extend the deadlines of an existing contract authorized by Ordinance 1180-222 and to allow them to outfit a mobile unit with appropriate funding. Due to COVID-19 and 2020, the Workforce Development Board of Central Ohio contracted with I Know I Can to administer support services for Columbus City School students to help raise early awareness of college and career opportunities, post-secondary access, as well as summer melt prevention and post-secondary persistence. Through today's ordinance, the Workforce Development Board of Central Ohio requests that I Know I Can be allowed to use the funding to outfit a mobile service unit for post-secondary and career outreach in Columbus community and to increase the access to students who need the most support. The Office of Education requests the authority to extend the deadline to December 2025 in the existing contract, to provide I know I can with the Workforce Development Board of Central Ohio additional time to do the work. If there are no questions, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
That's all I have, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next committee to come before council is the Public Utilities Committee, chaired by President Pro Tem. President Pro Tem, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President. First, I have Ordinance 2391-2023 to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to renew and increase a contract in accordance with the pertinent provisions to waive competitive bidding of the Columbus City Codes with Azteca Systems LLC for the software for CityWorks AMS system for the Department of Public Utilities and to authorize expenditure of $421,000 the Electricity Operating Fund, the Water Operating Fund, and the Sewer System Operating Fund, and the Stormwater Operating Fund. CityWorks AMS is a department-wide asset management solution. The software is an annual enterprise licensing agreement that includes cloud hosting services. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, we have Ordinance 2612-2023 to authorize the Director of Department of Public Utilities to enter a construction contract with Kenmore Constructing Company for Jackson Pike Wastewater Treatment Plant disinfection piping replacement, and to authorize an amendment to the 2023 capital improvement budget, to authorize a transfer of cash and appropriation within the sanitary bond fund, to authorize expenditure of up to $1,130,278.40 for the project, and declare an emergency. The current PVC piping in the Jackson Pike is nearing the end of its useful life and needs to be replaced. This project will also replace flow meters, pressure transmitters, pressure gauges, and heat tracing along the new piping system. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you, Council President. It's all of my committees at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next committee to come before council is the Housing Committee, chaired by Councilmember Favor. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President Harden. Tonight in Housing, we have Ordinance 2753-2023 to authorize the Director of the Department of Development to modify a subrecipient agreement with Greenwood 360 LLC to add additional funds in an amount up to $1,250,000 to act as the application manager for recipients as part of the department's ERA2 investment strategy and to declare an emergency. Earlier this year, Council passed Ordinance 2275-2023, authorizing the city to accept $90,537,806.23 of federal emergency rental assistance program funds with the purpose of ensuring housing stability within our community. As such, on June 12th of this year, we passed Ordinance 1577-23 to enter into contract with Greenwood 360 LLC to act as the application manager for the city's Department of Development's ERA investment strategy. However, given that the funds are being expended at an increasing rate than expected, additional funds are needed to operate this program and ensure those who qualify for rental assistance are able to receive it. Thus, this ordinance authorizes the Director of the Department of Development to modify the previous agreement with Greenwood 360 LLC and adds $1,250,000 of previously accepted ERA2 funds into the program to enable the organization continued service as application manager for recipients as part of the department's ERA2 investment strategy. Are there any questions or comments by my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, we have Ordinance 2756-2023 to authorize the Director of the Department of Development to modify a grant agreement to add additional funds in the amount of $16 million of the U.S. Department of Treasury Emergency Rental Assistance 2 funds to authorize the payment of eligible expenses and to declare an emergency. This ordinance authorizes the Director of Department of Development to modify a grant agreement to add $16 million in additional funding from the city's available Emergency Rental Assistance 2 funds for the Tony R. Wells Foundation for their continued service as the fiscal manager for the disbursement of ERA2 funds. Ordinance 1569, which was passed earlier this year, authorized the Director of Development to enter into this grant agreement with Tony R. Wells Foundation in an amount of $26,125,000. Given that the funds from the original contract were expended quickly due to high community need, additional funding is needed to ensure the Department of Development's ERA investment strategy can continue to provide much-needed relief to residents of the city. We are joined tonight by the Department of Development Director Hannah Jones. Do you have any additional comments you would make at this time?
No, not at this time. Thank you very much.
Are there any additional questions or comments by my colleagues? Seeing none, I'd move for passage.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
do we have a speaker on this one potentially, or do we have to call for a speaker?
My apologies.
No, you're good. Is it online? Oh, it's Mr. Wilkins.
Yes. My apologies, Mr. Wilkins. Moving too fast here. Welcome back to council. Yes.
Sixteen 12 Arlington Avenue, Mr. Lieutenant George Wilkins. I will be in favor of this, several reasons why. We are leaving out the multi-disability people, visually impaired. There's a couple ideas here. I kind of dropped down a few ideas. The ERA2 for rental assistance. I was looking at number 3 here, what stands for EDA3. That would stand for rental assistance for medical use for older people that's getting medicine and things, utility bills and things and stuff like that. I would also like to see $3.8 million for the next 45 years. The city of Columbus is constantly growing. The reason why I requested for $3.8 million and 75 cents, because the city is constantly growing. After 28 years for this money, it can be up to $95 million, quarter to $1 million. We have a lot more people that's aging in these homes or apartment complexes. I don't know for the rental assistance if it's stabilized for single-family homes, apartments, condos, and that such of information there. But again, I would like to see more money up to almost $3 million to set aside for this for the next 75 years, since the city is constantly growing the next 40 to 75 years. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Wilkins, and thank you for your continued advocacy in the housing space. Are there any additional questions or comments at this time? Seeing none, I'd move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. The next 4 ordinances will center the city's housing loan forgiveness policy. The City of Columbus Department of Development Housing Division provides funding, including home and neighborhood stabilization program funds, to developers to cover the cost of creating and or improving affordable housing projects, including affordable multifamily rental projects within the city. To address our housing crisis, we must have a multifaceted solutions to make sure that we are preserving our current housing stock that addresses the unique needs of our residents. These pieces of legislation serve our residents with recapitalization for Providence Glen, Corbin Drive, and Farmhouse Lane, and ensure the continued operations of Commons at Grant to keep our residents housed. Developments such as Corbin Commons and Providence Glen serve about 200 of our residents that are below a 30% to 60% area median income in our community. As we process these legislative pieces, I will call on Deputy Director Hannah Jones to offer some additional comments at this time. But before we do that, very quickly, Deputy Director, what is the city's multifamily housing loan forgiveness policy?
Sure. Thank you very much, President Harden, President Pro Tem Dorans, and Chair Favor. The focus of our policy is that where there's instances in which the affordability period has been completed, so when we do a home loan, there's a 20-year compliance period in order to ensure affordability is in place. When that has been met, and debt forgiveness will facilitate a reinvestment in the project, so specifically, they're going to be recapitalizing in order to do substantial rehab in order to ensure that we will continue to have active affordable units. We allow debt forgiveness in order to allow them to do that. So usually they're going for a tax credit project through OFA or another lender that will also then give us another 10 to 15 years of affordability over and above what they've already met. So for us, it's a way to provide and ensure long-term affordability on already existing units in our community.
And I think you've just answered the question, but why is it important for the city to forgive these types of loans, given the socioeconomic stressors of housing that we're seeing in our community?
Sure. I think the most critical one is that they are units that are already in existence. If we don't find a way to ensure that the affordability remains and that the projects are viable, as in they generate enough revenue from the rent to offer the services that our residents need, then they could go offline and or flip over to the private market. So what this allows us, without investing more cash, is to ensure that we are getting decades more of affordability. With Commons at Grant, that is a program where they are first and foremost paying for the services of their residents. They are not recapitalizing, but we recognize that if we ask them to pay the debt owed to us, it would be at the cost of the services to a very low income population that needs these units today.
Thank you. So the first one up is Ordinance 2773-2023 to authorize the Director of the Department of Development to forgive the principal and accrued interest for the Commons at Grant Limited Partnership on a home loan due to the City of Columbus totaling approximately $4,375,025 and to declare an emergency. This legislation authorizes the Director of Development to forgive the principal and interest accrued at the property located at 398 South Grant Avenue, which was originally developed by National Church Residences at the Commons at Grant Limited Partnership. A $1.5 million home loan was made on January 17, 2002, in the amount of from the City of Columbus for site acquisition and construction of the project. The loan's interest rate is 5.46%, and the current balance exceeds $4,374,025. The required federal compliance period for this loan is complete, and the restrictive covenant can be released. The completion of the 20-year home affordability period has passed, and the property remains as a permanent supportive housing provider for those who were homeless or at risk of homelessness. The property owner has requested, and the Development Department supports forgiving the loan to ensure the development can continue as permanent supportive housing within the city. Are there any additional questions or comments by my colleagues at this time? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, Favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, we have Ordinance 2774-2023 to authorize the Director of the Department of Development to forgive the principal and accrued interest for Agler Elderly Housing Limited Partnership on a home loan due to the City of Columbus totaling $1.5 million and to declare an emergency. This legislation authorizes the Director of the Department of Development to forgive the principal and accrued interest for the property located at 3426 Corbin Commons Drive that was originally developed by four mission-driven nonprofits: Dayspring Christian Community Development Corporation, Columbus Housing Partnership, My Brother's Keeper, and New Salem Real Estate Holdings. A home loan was made on December 21st, 1988, in the amount of $720,000 from the City of Columbus for site acquisition and construction. The loan's interest rate is 5.25%, and the current balance exceeds $1.5 million. The project has never operated at a profit, and the completion of the 20-year home affordability period has passed. Now the owner would like to recapitalize using 4% low-income housing tax credit funding and has requested gap funding from the city and other sources to do so. Are there any additional questions or comments at this time? Seeing none, I'd move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, Favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, we have Ordinance 2779-2023 to authorize the Director of the Department of Development to forgive the principal and accrued interest for the Country Ridge Apartments, currently owned by Columbus Metropolitan Housing Authority on a home loan due to the City of Columbus totaling $2.4 million and to declare an emergency. This ordinance will authorize the Director of Department of Development to forgive the principal and accrued interest for Country Ridge Apartments, currently owned by CMHA. The property is located at 5656 Farmhouse Lane, was originally developed by Country Ridge Apartments Limited Partnership. A home loan totaling $1,152,000 was made on July 30th, 1997 from the City of Columbus for site acquisition and construction of the project. The loan's interest rate is 3%, and the current balance exceeds $2.4 million. The property is being refinanced and resyndicated to allow the property to remain affordable housing for decades to come. In order to recapitalize the property, it must take on additional debt. The owners must show the additional debt, and the existing city debt can be paid in full for the new debt to not be considered a grant. If it is considered a grant, the low-income housing tax credit basis and the corresponding tax credit equity will be reduced, causing a funding gap. Are there any additional questions or comments by my colleagues at this time? Seeing none, I'd move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
And last but certainly not least, there's ordinance 2781 to authorize the Director of the Department of Development to forgive the principal and accrued interest for Agler Family Housing Limited Partnership on a home loan due to the City of Columbus, approximately $2.6 million, and to declare an emergency. This ordinance deals with the property located at 2421 Adonai Drive that was originally developed by 4 Mission nonprofits. The home loan was totaling $1,080,000, was made on October 28, 1998, from the City of Columbus for site acquisition and construction of the project, which has been providing affordable housing for eligible residents since the time. The loan's interest rate is 5.25%, and the current balance exceeds $2.6 million. Given the affordability mission of the development, the project has never operated at a profit. The completion of the 20-year home affordability period has passed, and the owner would like to recapitalize using 4% LIHTC funding and have requested gap funding from the city and other sources to do so. We did have an individual that was going to testify this evening in support of this, but he has left this evening, Mr. Johnny Pitts, president of Dayspring Christian Community Development Corp., to provide remarks. Deputy Director, do you have any additional comments you make at this time? Any additional questions or comments by my colleagues? Seeing none, I'd move for passage.
Second. Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
And the last ordinance in the Housing Committee is Ordinance 2837-2023 to authorize the Director of the Department of Development to enter into capital contribution agreement with Vista Village Incorporated in an amount of $500,000 in support of the organization's proposed tiny home community, to authorize an expenditure within the Development Bond Fund, and to declare an emergency. Vista Village Incorporated is developing a community of 41 tiny homes, a 4,000 square foot community center for the on-site delivery of services to our program participants, a community garden, and a 2-acre park to serve the holistic needs of people experiencing homelessness. They will serve men and women on the streets and in camps, young adults aging out of foster care, returning citizens from incarceration, veterans, and those in substance recovery. In addition to being housed, the residents will be provided financial literacy, mental health counseling, primary health, workforce development, skilled trades training, dental and pharmacy services, and addiction recovery services to help individuals on their journey to employment and independence. I'd now like to provide an opportunity for my colleagues that have supported this legislation, Council President Harden and Councilmember Barosa de Padilla, to provide any additional comments that they'd like to make at this time.
I just want to say thank you for your leadership, Councilmember Favor. I think, what's most exciting about this project, and we talk about this all the time, is that as we think about housing solutions in the city of Columbus, we need to start thinking differently. We need to start thinking outside the box. We need to be creative in how we think about how we house folks and wherever they are on their housing journey or rehousing journey. And so I'm excited about Vista Village. I'm excited about exploring the possibility of not just tiny homes, but also the wraparound services that folks will experience while they live there, while, again, they're on their journey of rehousing. And so the learnings, I think, that we'll find from this, I think will help to inform the decisions that we also make in the future around thinking about housing in different ways and how we care for our people. So again, thank you for your leadership. I was excited to be part of really helping to bring this to fruition, and I'm excited to see what this will look like in the coming months and years.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councilmember Barosa de Padilla. Any additional questions or comments at this time? Seeing none, we move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. May I move on to Health and Human Services?
Please.
Thank you. Tonight in Health and Human Services, we have Ordinance 2751-2023 to authorize the Board of Health to enter into contracts with Nationwide Children's Hospital for the provision of WIC clinics at their facilities and access to Interpreters, LLC, for language interpretation services, to authorize the expenditure of $1,010,377 from the Health Department Grants Fund. This piece of legislation will authorize the Board of Health to accept a grant from the Ohio Department of Health to fund the Women, Infant, and Children Program and enables Columbus Public Health to enter into contracts with Nationwide Children's Hospital. Columbus Public Health has been designated as the primary grantee agency and administrator for all WIC programs in Franklin County, with the grant funding the program beginning October 1st, 2023 through September 30th. Both of these services followed competitive bidding requirements as outlined in the city code. Emergency action is being requested to ensure continued operations of the Nationwide Children's Hospital WIC clinics so its clients can receive essential services without interruption. Are there questions or comments by my colleagues at this time? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, Favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. That's all I have in my committees.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next committee to come before council is the Public Safety Committee. The committee is chaired by Councilmember Remy. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Council President Harden. Tonight I have one ordinance in public safety, and that is Ordinance 2696-2023 to authorize the Director of Public Safety on the behalf of the Division of Fire to enter into a contract with the issue a purchase order to ESO Solutions, Inc. for fire incident reporting software integration and licensing, to waive the competitive bidding provisions of the Columbus City Code, to authorize the expenditure of $110,508.75 from the general fund, and to declare an emergency. This software platform provides for the fire division's incident reporting needs, with each of the approximately 170,000 calls for service taken per year requiring an incident report. These reports are maintained as a records database and must be retained as permanent records. These incident reports are sent to the U.S. Fire Administration and the Ohio Fire Marshal as mandated by the federal and state requirements. In addition to these incident reports, this software platform manages all inspections conducted by the Columbus Fire Prevention Bureau, which total approximately 35,000 occupancies annually. Accompanying the inspections are the issuance of fire permits, which generates $1.5 million of revenue for the city annually. Director, the reason for the waiver of competitive bidding is because this is a continuation of a software license that we have. Is that correct?
Council Chair Remy, that is correct. At this time, we need it for the continuity of service with plans to go out to bid before the renewal comes up.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, Favor, Remy, President Harden.
And that is all I have on public safety. Council President, can I move on to environment? I have one ordinance in the Environment Committee this evening, Ordinance 2503-2023, to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to accept the Climate Pollution Reduction Planning Grant in the amount of $1 million for the Department of Public Utilities Columbus Sustainable Section, to authorize the appropriation and expenditure of $1 million from the Electricity Grants Fund to support development of a priority climate action plan, a comprehensive climate action plan, and a final status report, and to declare an emergency. The Climate Pollution Reduction Planning Grant provides funding under the Federal Inflation Reduction Act to the City of Columbus to develop regional climate mitigation plans to address greenhouse gas emissions and co-pollutants and reduction measures throughout the entire metropolitan area, and to conduct meaningful engagement with low-income and disadvantaged communities and coordinate with geographically proximate tribes as appropriate. 3 key deliverables will be produced and submitted over the course of the 4-year program period: a priority climate action plan due March 1st, 2024, a comprehensive climate action plan due 2 years from the date of the reward, and a status report due at the close of the grant period. The city's inaugural climate action plan, published in 2021, will serve as the baseline for the priority climate action plan and the comprehensive climate action plan. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Pass.
Thank you very much. That is all I have this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And finally, in the Finance Committee, we have Ordinance 2669-2023 to authorize the Director of Finance and Management on behalf of the Office of Construction Management to enter into a professional service agreement with AECom to provide architect or record services for the Department of Public Safety's Real-Time Crime Center and for Public Safety Operations Campus Project, and to authorize an expenditure of up to $8,328,810 within the Safety General Obligations Fund. This scope of this project includes the design, development, and construction of oversight of a new public safety facility. The facility will house the Real-Time Crime Center, 911 Emergency Communications Center, the Emergency Operations Center, support staff, and a separate police substation. As part of an ongoing commitment to improve the safety and resiliency of our city, this initiative marks one of the most recent investments in this endeavor. The Real-Time Crime Center will be a place for our residents, our neighbors. Our intention is for it to become more connected with the community and address public safety in a way that supports our city's needs effectively and appropriately. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Hearing none, I move for passage. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
And finally, we have Ordinance 2768-2023 is to authorize the Director of the Department of Finance and Management to enter into a not-for-profit service contract with Central Ohio Hospital Councils to authorize the transfer of $500,000 within the general fund and to authorize the expenditure of up to $500,000 from the general fund and to declare an emergency. This is such a big deal, that through this week, folks in our community, 340,000 folks in our community will start to receive letters to say that their medical debt that they racked up in our community will be forgiven. This is based off of because of former Council President Pro Tem Liz Brown bringing this work towards us, and then the work for a year of President Pro Tem Rob Dorans. So thank you so much, Councilmember Dorans. This is, even on days like this, they have impact, and this piece of legislation proves that. Thank you, sir. Do you have any comments on this?
Yeah, thank you, Council President. I appreciate working with you and certainly to former Councilmember Liz Brown for introducing this topic to this body last year. Couple thank yous, and I want to run through this because this is, I think, an important moment for us to recognize what this legislation means for over 300,000 families across Columbus. I want to thank as well the Central Ohio Hospital Council, who has been working with us during this time to get us to where we're at here tonight. We know that part of building a more equitable city is about removing barriers, and medical debt is one of those economic barriers that face far too many families here in Columbus. All too often, medical debt can become an albatross hanging around families' necks, because we know that medical debt is the leading cause of personal bankruptcy in the United States. Too many families should not have to choose between putting food on the table and accessing needed health care. We know here at City Council, we don't have the power to restructure our health system to make it more fair for families, but what we're announcing here tonight will bring increased economic stability to working families in Columbus have been saddled with medical debt for far too long. As the Council President mentioned, we're voting to enter into an agreement with Central Ohio Hospital Council in an amount up to $500,000 for costs related to the forgiveness of medical debt for Columbus residents. This partnership will provide debt relief for Columbus residents who are treated at any of our 4 area hospital systems from 2015 to 2020. To be eligible, patients must have an income at or under 400% of the federal poverty level. Our estimates tell us that these efforts will result in 340,000 Columbus residents receiving medical debt forgiveness. Think about that. That is filling the shoe 3 times. That is how many residents we're talking about here. 1 in 3 folks in Columbus will likely benefit from this program. The average debt that will be relieved is just under $1,000 for these families. As the Council President mentioned, starting this week, eligible residents will receive notification by mail that their debt will be included in this forgiveness. Residents don't need to take any action on their own. Again, the letter will be their notification that this debt will be removed from their burden moving forward. I know I speak for my colleagues when I say this, that this isn't just an effort to build more economic stability for families in Columbus, but we know that this will have an impact on families' physical and mental health as well, because that, when you are strained financially, that makes a difference for folks being able to put food on the table and not have to worry about this hanging over their head. We also know that medical debt disproportionately impacts women, people of color, and households earning less than 400% of the poverty level here in Columbus. We think here that this will advance our economic opportunities for impacted residents, reduce social inequities, and for those that have put off health care because they're worried about what that debt means for their families. Earlier today, we were joined at a press conference by Jeff Kingler, CEO and president of the Central Iowa Hospital Council. I want to personally thank Jeff, who couldn't be here this evening, and our local hospital systems, including Nationwide Children's Hospital, the Ohio State Wexner Medical Center, Ohio Health, and Mount Carmel for bringing us here tonight. To say that we got in the weeds on this for the past year would be an understatement, and without these hospital systems and folks standing together to figure this out, we wouldn't be here tonight. This is a uniquely Columbus approach to this issue, and that has resulted in thousands of more residents being impacted and hundreds of millions of more dollars being forgiven here tonight through this program. So just very excited to bring us here and have this legislation before us here tonight, and very excited that there'll be lots of impacted families in the mailbox this week seeing this come to fruition for them, knowing that this is no longer something that's hanging above their head. So with that, I want to pause to see if my colleagues have any questions or comments.
Yeah, I just want to thank you, President Pro Tem and Council President, for the work that you did. I mean, when this first was brought to us, we thought it was a great idea and there was a process and all that, but where we ended up is so much more substantive for our residents and will impact so many more residents within this city because of the work and the diligence and working with the Ohio Hospitals the Hospitals Council. So really appreciate you digging in and making sure that this was the right program for the city of Columbus. I think this is remarkable nationally. It's certainly for everybody that's on the street that's been impacted by medical debt. This is a big deal. So I can't stress enough. It's one of the bigger things that I've ever voted on, and I appreciate the work that you've done.
Thank you. With that, I'll pass it back to the Council President to call the roll on this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and seriously, congratulations, and thank you for your leadership. See no further, I move for, what number is this?
Passage.
Move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, Favor, Remy, President Harden.
It is passed. Reminder, there is no council meeting next week, so our next meeting will fall on October 30th. Seeing no further business come for council, I move for it to adjourn. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, Favor, Remy, President Harden.
Meeting is adjourned.